Hello, this is Julie with Center Mobile Yoga. We'll go ahead and do a restorative practice today. So if you're listening to this on the recording, just make yourself comfortable. For the first few minutes, we're not going to use any props. And then I do have two blankets, a bolster, and 2 blocks, but you use whatever you can and whatever you need for the practice today. So we'll begin by placing our hands on our heart, closing our eyes, just taking some really full, deep breaths to relax into our practice. See if you can take a few moments and just let go of the day today. Notice your breath can be nice and even, soft, quiet. Can you soften your eyes, soften the jaw? If you're comfortable with the Ujjayi breath, bring in that beautiful energy and start to hear the softness of the Ujjayi breath. Check in with your body and notice if you have any places you feel like you're holding some tension today. Maybe take just a few moments. Breathe into that spot. Let's start with one spot. And just remind yourself, I do not need to hold this in my body today. I do not need to hold this in my body today. Before we begin our first movement, let's just bring our head to our heart and take a moment and set an intention for your practice today. Beautiful. Let's release the hands. I'm going to stretch out the legs, and I'm sitting on a little blanket today. I always think it's best to sit up on a blanket anytime you're sitting because it allows the hips to come forward a little bit. So our first pose is going to be a very wide leg pose. Now this pose is challenging for me, so I'm going to use lots of props. I already have my block, my bolster and my blanket. And I'm going to come forward now. You notice this is as far forward as I can go. So I'm really going to prop myself up even a little bit more. And if you wanted, you could add a block. If your head comes to the block. Now, you may even want to put the block on top of the blanket if you are really tight in the inner groin. So that's what the pose is going to look like. Take a few moments and stretch your sit bones back. So your hips are already tilting forward. Relax your feet. Maybe let them even open up out to the sides a little bit. Whatever feels comfortable for your knees. You can also put some blankets underneath your knees if this is a really uncomfortable pose for you. So prop yourself up as much as you can. We'll be here for a little bit. So make yourself comfortable. So you want the props in restorative yoga to come meet you. So there's a lot of times we use props to assist us and we come down to meet the prop. In restorative yoga, we are bringing the props up to meet us. So really take the time to do that today. All right, and find your spot. And you're taking a few moments just to wiggle in there until you get really as comfortable as you can. And then take some really deep breaths and see if you can settle in a little bit. So sink into the earth, your sit bones with your legs. Let gravity be your friend as you soften into your bolster, your props. Try not to let the head be heavy, but let it connect with a blanket or a block. Now, as for those of you who can, obviously, some of you can bring your head all the way to the floor, and that's perfectly fine too. So wherever you are in this pose, let's settle in, take some really deep breaths, and then just let go. You have a lot on your mind today, and you feel that your mind is just running in all kinds of different directions. See if you can bring your awareness to really focus on the breath, down deep into the lower diaphragm. So right underneath the belly button, see if you can feel that breath centered right there, and see if that will just bring your awareness to there and soften and soften and soften a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper. See if you can stay with me for another 2 minutes. And just see if you can relax a little bit more. Are you holding tension in shoulders, in belly, in hips, low back? Take a long, nice exhalation and see if you can feel the gravity just pulling you down just a little bit deeper for these last minutes. Take a nice deep breath in, slowly bringing yourself up. And if you have a lot of props, so just put some to the side because we may want to use the bolster for the next pose. I don't need a bolster and a blanket for the next pose, so I'm going to put that to my side. And just be mindful when you come up. So let's slowly bend the knees, right? And I'm just going to come onto hands and knees for a few moments, and we'll just do a little bit of cat-cow. So just allowing that spine to come back into alignment. Let me turn to the side so you can see. So just a little bit of the cat-cow. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Good, coming back to the center. Now, this pose, I'm going to take the blankets out to the side so that you can see if you have really tight hips and or some knees that need a little bit of padding. You may want a little bit of padding underneath you, especially if you are in a space where there is a hard floor. So this is the frog pose. So I'm going to take my knees and place them on the blankets really wide. Now, this bolster is just going to go right underneath my belly. So right on my belly here. It's going to support me. And again, if you need some other help, you're welcome to. My feet are directly behind my knees and sink back. And you can do the legs as wide as possible. Some of you don't need to have the bolster, obviously. But you should feel really good inner groin stretch. So I'm going to come all the way down just to show it to you. And you can have blankets underneath your belly if you would want, or something else. So take your time coming into this pose. So you want to sink back a little bit into it. Okay, so maybe your knees aren't as far apart as you think they should be, or you can adjust, but sink back into your butt and see if you can relax just a little bit more into it. I'm going to see if I can place my hands here. And after a few moments, you may feel like you can go deeper into this pose, either wider knees or Sink your butt back towards your heels. Take your time and really relax and really breathe into it because it's a very tight spot, especially for women. All right, let's settle in. You allow yourself to feel the effects of gravity here, taking maybe another 2 minutes in this pose. Sometimes it can be challenging, so breathe into this discomfort and then see if you can make it comfortable with some props, bringing the props up to you, however you need to. Bring your awareness to your breath. as you exit this pose, just be really mindful. I like to bring one leg in at a time. And I'm in a position again to do a little bit of the cat-cow if you feel like you'd like. Or maybe just circling your hips around. See if that feels a little bit better today. So when you're ready, we're just going to do a child's pose twist. So we'll go to one side. We're going to start on our right. So knees to the right, and we'll let our left hip rest on the bolster. So you can do just your knees tucked in if you want to a little bit. That's perfectly fine. We're just going to come down. Rest with our head to the side, usually to the same side as the knees, but you don't have to. You can turn your head to the other side if it feels better for you. And just rest here. And we'll do both sides in a few minutes. But I just wanted to show you, if you wanted to change your legs a little bit, you can have the top leg just reaching back. Maybe that helps a little bit with the stretch here in your hip. Or if you really wanted to, you could stretch both legs out to the side like that, if that feels better for you. So you take your time. You've got all kinds of different variations. See which feels best for you. And just allow yourself to relax into the bolster. And again, it's always good to have a little bolster in this pose, so it's a little bit different than a twist, normal twist. But it's a real easy pose, and we won't stay here very long. We'll do both sides. So let's take a few breaths and relax. Again, checking in with your breath, making sure the breath is nice and deep in the body, really nice and soft and relaxed, so that the mind is more quiet and not agitated in any way. Maybe for the last minute on the side, you're just going to turn your head in the opposite direction of the knees. See how that feels? And taking a full breath in, use your hands to gently press yourself up. And it's really easy just to come to hands and knees and then work on the twist on your other side. So if you started with your left hip on the bolster, put our right hip on the bolster this time. And again, you decide how you want your legs and how you want your head. Once you found your space, take some really deep breaths and let's sink into it. If you'd like to try for the last 2 minutes to bring your head in the opposite direction of the knees. Taking in a nice full breath. We use our hands to work our way back up. So we've been doing a lot of forward bends in this class today. So in the last bit of class, we will take the time to actually reverse it. So our back will rest into the earth and our chest will be up and open. So you can use a bolster on this one, or if you want to, you can use a block. A block is a lot harder. And if you don't want either one of these, you can roll a blanket up and use it as well. And just a note too, you may be kind of cold by this time in class because your body temperature is relaxing. So if you want to, you are welcome to put a blanket over you. So let me just show you. I'm going to actually place my whole butt on this bolster today. I'm going to take a blanket so I have it over me because I always get a little chilly at this time of class. And this time my shoulders are completely off. Okay, so we're going to keep our knees up so it's like a supported bridge. Okay, and our arms are going to be out to the side. And we're going to have this little back bend happening here. So if you need anything underneath your head, another blanket or anything that you need, please feel free to put it underneath your head. And I'm using a blanket just to keep myself warm. Palms are up for this particular pose. If you can and feels comfortable, please do so. I have my gaze at the ceiling and I'm going to close my eyes. So let's take a few moments here. And now feel the shoulders resting into the earth. The arms may feel a little bit heavy. The shoulders should be touching the earth or on a blanket. So again, you're bringing the props up to you. If you need more props, take the time to have more props. Can you feel this lower back rest into the bolster? Feeling a little bit of gravity. Now, if you feel like you're holding your legs up, you don't want to put any tension on the legs. So we can walk the feet out a little bit and let the knees come together if that feels better for you. We're going to switch halfway through this particular pose and take it a little deeper. So you decide how you want your feet right now, so that the legs feel relaxed, maybe against each other here. And can you bring your awareness into the third eye between your eyebrows? So we soften our face. And we feel the awareness in between the eyebrows. Really relaxing our mind. And when your mind's relaxed, your body can relax. And breathe fully and deeply. Stay comfortable in this pose, breathing deep. You can soften into the breath just a little bit more. And those of you who want to go a little bit deeper in this pose, maybe it feels good to you. If this is your deal and you think you can go a little bit further, we can take either one leg and stretch it out. Or if you're feeling really great, you can stretch both legs out. This will get more of a stretch in the inner line and a much deeper back bend. So if you're doing one leg, do one leg for a few breaths and then switch and do the other leg. If you're doing both legs, see if you can relax into that lower back, into that back bend, into the shoulders just a little bit more. Or keep the knees bent and the feet on the floor as we started, if that feels the most appropriate to you today. Relax. Soften into that third eye space and breathe. So if your legs are straight, bring the feet back to the floor for just a moment. We're just going to transition into Shavasana, our last pose of the day. So I'm going to take the bolster underneath my knees to give myself a little support on my low back in Shavasana today. Since you have been working a little bit like that, if the bolster feels really good underneath your knees. Maybe a blanket, you don't have to do either. You can just lie in a big letter X or the letter Y or wherever you feel comfortable. Let's find our final pose. Let the feet open a little bit. Let the arms open. Let the eyes close. You can let go of any breath that you're working on and just let the breath be comfortable in your life. Let's notice the energy in your body today. You feel a different energy flow. Just observe. No judgment. Just like we did at the beginning of class. If you find tension somewhere that's still hanging around, just repeat to yourself, I do not need to hold this in my body today. I do not need to hold this in my body today. Stay with your final pose. Notice how it's feeling today. Can you let gravity take you just a tiny bit deeper into this final moment? The Buddha gives us 3 reasons to practice equanimity that stand the test of time. He tells us we tend to think the impermanent is permanent, the unreliable is reliable, and that which is not the self is the self. He goes on to say that we get attached to our point of view when life does not cooperate, we suffer. The practices of mindfulness and compassion are tools for working with these habits of the mind. We experience an almost immediate shift in perspective from the beginning of our practice. And over time, we unlearn many of the habits of the mind that cause us to suffer. As this process takes place, the tug of our old ways of seeing and being continue to cause suffering. The practice of equanimity allows us to be right here with the fact of our continued suffering, learning from it without taking it personally and seeing it for what it is, just passing through. Let's take a moment while you're in Shavasana. Place one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. And as you sink deeper into this pose, you allow yourself this beautiful gift. Can you also do what the Buddha says? Practice equanimity. Release expectations. Practice just going with the flow of life and seeing if it helps you reduce your suffering. Please feel free to stay in this final practice, this space of Shavasana, this space of peace and relaxation. As I end the practice, my gift to you is that you will feel peace. You'll feel the presence of Namaste, bowing, the honoring of you. Namaste.